they're really key to everything, and they're the bulk of the communication skills, I guess, that we use in terms of specific strategies and skills. So in a nutshell, active listening is all of these things. So it's paying attention to what's said, and importantly also how things are said. So people's body language is part of that, their tone, their demeanour generally. It's utilising a whole range of verbal and non-verbal techniques when we communicate. It's using our open and relaxed body language ourselves, using minimal encourages, which we've spoken about, and the three things we'll talk today, so questioning, paraphrasing and summarising, and we'll add to that after the break, reflecting and clarifying. Okay, so they're known as the sort of key active listening micro skills, I suppose. Okay, I'm going to move on. First of all, talking about silence. If you were to observe conversations that you're involved in just in your daily life, you would probably notice that there's not a lot of silence in them. People have a tendency to want to fill all the space with a lot of words. But it is an activity and a skill to use in and of itself. So silence in a helping relationship or conversation allows the person to speak about their issues without interruption. And for a lot of us, that's kind of new. Do we all know someone, hands up if we all know someone that tends to not wait until we finish those last words of our sentence and start talking? I do. Yeah? Yeah. My son is a classic for it, and I'm really trying to train him out of it by just popping my hand on his knee. Yeah, it tends to, I don't know, tell me the impact that has on you when people do it to you. And they talk over the end. Melody?
It makes you want to stop, like, talking to them and, like, telling them, like, if you're talking about, like, issues that you're having, it makes you, like, just shut off because they, like, you feel like they're not listening anyways.
Yeah, that's right. So it has a way of silencing you that makes Kay feel frustrated. It has Janelle feeling that people don't value what she's saying. I can really associate with that. Aurora not feeling heard. Oh, Kay's a contributor to this, so that's something to work on, Kay. You feel like you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, and I guess that's about not being validated. So having what you're saying minimised. And Mogain says, when I talk, people interrupt me. You just feel there's no point talking. Okay, that they don't care about what you're saying. All right, so that is something that's a real no-no because of all those impacts. All right, so what silence helps people to do is process their thoughts. And that's the point of our interaction with them, to help them work through whatever it is. So sometimes with, the skill of artful sort of questions, it might be the first time someone's had the space and opportunity to think through whatever it is that you're asking them about, to reflect, to find what's true for them. It allows some time for the fog of what everybody else has said to them to dissipate so that they can find their true response to that, their true feeling, tap into their authentic response, their authentic selves. So you, as the person in the communication dialogue, You have to learn to be comfortable with a bit of silence. And a lot of people struggle with that. So that's your challenge, to allow the person to fully respond. You wait a little bit, you ask a question. When you ask a question, just wait for their answer. You don't have to fill the space with gobbledygook, with another question. That confuses people. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So really look out for that today. So when you're giving people feedback, that's one of the things I want you to pay attention to, and feedback to the person. Well, you know, maybe you could have allowed a little bit more time there for the person to generate their response, to tap into their feelings about that. All right. Any questions around silence? Oh, how beautifully demonstrated. There's just silence. Yes, you're all very good at it in a virtual environment, I have to say. You excel. Okay. Okay, so something to have a think about. We often, as human beings, like to think that we're good listeners, but watch yourself in a conversation. I find what's really happening is that people are just waiting for their turn to speak. They're not actually listening. Yeah. So someone's telling you something, oh yeah, and me, and when I, and that, and that, and that, and that, right? That's what happens. So we don't want to do that, because the role isn't about us speaking, it's about us actually listening properly. And for a lot of people, being truly heard and listened to is kind of a new experience. So we want to be deep listeners, all right? Not just wanting to talk. The first thing we're going to do today is talk about questions. So, does anyone know anything about questions? What do they already know? Oh, well, that's nice, Aurora. Oh, Oasis. So, yeah, you let people know if there's stuff happening for you and you're not present and listening. However, in a helping relationship, we need to be able to put our stuff aside and be fully present. Yeah, we do need to do that. So we need to find a way, because, you know, all people that work in helping professions have things going on for them. Okay, so that is true, because we're just human beings. But we really do need to find a way to leave that while we're working with other people. It's not about us. We need to put it about, yeah, I know that, Oasis. I'm just picking up on that thing. So yeah, that's something too. Like, you can't be thinking about, oh my God, you know, where's my kid who's meant to be on the train, and starting to have a bit of a moment about that, or thinking about whether you're cooking lamb chops or, you know, a Caesar salad for dinner. That's not the time. Yeah, so we need to be just fully present. Jack says, yes, there are open and closed questions. Good, Jack. So we're going to talk about those. Yes, and we can use questions, Caden, to ask a person for clarification, and that's really important. And Elena says, questions leads up to knowing. Yeah, so that's what we'll be exploring a little bit first, Elena. So who wants to know what? I thought I'd start with first telling you what the impact of ineffective questions are. So they can really limit that whole conversation, and really can cause quite a bit of discomfort and confusion in the people that we work with. So common problems are double-barreled or compound questions. So where you're asking two questions linked together, people don't know which one they're answering, and you won't either. So you've got to keep questions simple, one question at a time, and allow the person to process that. Bombardment or grilling. So question, answer, question, answer. Spanish Inquisition. That's not going to be helpful for people either because there's no processing time. There's no time to explore some of those responses. Questions as statements. Oh, I can't even think of an example. But a lot of people do that. They just say something, but they put it in a way that is mimicking, if you like, a question. Can anyone think of an example? Question as a statement? I can't off the top of my head. No? Something to look out for though, okay? So make sure it is a proper question. A leading question. Do you know what I mean by a leading question? Come on, I know someone knows. Talk to me. Elena, a man with a disability, as we like to say in recovery-based conversations, that you were looking after told you not to ask stupid questions. Is there any question as a stupid question? Not as a student. No, but the questions have to be congruent with the topic. That means in line with the topic. Yeah? So but we're asking questions in order to help the person establish their goals, basically, and what they want to do. So John says a leading question in child protection would be, did your father hit you to cause that bruise? Yes, that's right, because you've got already a preformed answer in your question. Okay, so that's what a leading question is. A value-laden question, so a question that is indicative of your values coming through. That's out there. So we'll hopefully be practicing not doing these things today. All right, and we'll talk more about this as we go. But overuse of why questions. Can anyone off the top of their head tell me why questions might not be the best way to go? Why? Why questions? Why did you do that, Emily? Why did you do that, Melody? You can just turn your mic on. It can sound accusing, yeah. Yep. Well, Janelle, with one-word answers, and we'll talk about that. So actually why questions are an open type of question. But I think, as Angela says, it can sound like people have to justify themselves, you know? Yeah. All right. Not much structure. Okay. Well, we'll have a bit of a look at that. So the main aims, and this goes to Eleanor's point, I guess, about questioning, is to really lead our client to further understanding of their circumstances, of what they want, of their priorities, of their goals. Yes, it does help us understand, and that's useful, but I guess the point of us is to help them understand because they're the ones that got to self-direct whatever's going to happen. And we also ask questions, of course, to obtain basic information that we might need in order to be part of that helping relationship. But I would say that it's around the primary purpose is to enhance the client to understand themselves, their circumstances, what they want, their direction, that type of thing. So as Jack said, there are two types of questions, basically, open and closed, and both are useful. However, open questions allow the person that we're speaking with to explore a particular area and to talk openly and freely. Whereas closed questions elicit those shorter responses, are really around basic information, specifics, and usually can be answered with a one-word answer. Yes, no, maybe, that kind of thing. So we will use both, but the point of us is to really ask as many good open questions as we can to encourage the person to explore their world, their thoughts, their desires, their needs, their interests. Yeah. So closed questions can help us focus in on a specific issue. They usually begin with is, are, or do, but we can use them to clarify. So that would probably be often our main purpose in using them. You said during the week it was really difficult for you because your mother went to hospital and you had children running around everywhere and issues to deal with their care. Is that right? Okay, so is that right? That's a clarifying question. It's a yes or no. Yeah. Open questions, however, usually begin with what, why, how. Of course, I've said be careful with the why. But an open question asks the person for their opinion, knowledge, feelings. Okay, tell me. It might be a way to begin an open question. Describe can be used. So some examples. What happened at the party? As opposed to, did you enjoy the party? Yes or no? How was the party? Tell me what happened next. Describe that in a bit more detail. Okay. So open questions are good for developing a really open conversation where the person is directing the responses. Good for finding out more detail and good for finding out the other person's opinion or issues. But if we ask why questions, we're really backing people into a corner. We're getting them to defend what they did or what they thought or how they felt. So I hate the question, why did you do that? Why did you feel that way? It's like I'm going, well, it's my feeling, yeah? Why do I have to justify it to you? Does that make sense? Angela, you're looking puzzled. You're not? You're concentrating. Okay. Oasis has her hand up.
If we're like talking through processing something that someone's gone through and they might be confused about their feelings, if you kind of came in gently and kind of was like asking, why do you think that way? Is that a healthy way of asking a why question?
I would do it as, tell me about your thoughts that led to that. Or tell me a bit about your feelings and what happened for you. That's how I do it, Oasis. But why just, it just has a connotation to it, you know, that we mightn't intend, but people might experience. Yeah. So I'll do a demonstration later, and what I might try and do, actually, if you remind me, is I might try and do it with a few bloopers, and then I might try and do it without. So I'm just trying to write myself a note. Convo demo. Okay. Oh, God, this is my experiment for the day. So if you either use that link or scan that QR code, let's see if it takes us to my Mentimeter that I made. So have a crack. I'm just going to reduce the screen though. There it is. You getting that up? Hold on, I'll just move that over there. Let's hope this works. It's my little experiment of the day. Okay, how do I get that over? Hold on. Okay. So write an open-ended question that seeks to explore goals that another person might have. Is that working? Is it opening up for you? Oh, I like that one. What do you want the future to look like for you? That's cool. What kind of things are you thinking you want to achieve over the next few weeks? Great questions, people. What would you like to do with your life? Good. Where do you want to see yourself in 5 years? What do you see in your future? Where do you see yourself in the future? Good. Can you think of a couple of things you'd like to work on? They're great. Well done. A few more. My experiment worked. Yippee for me. Bit clunky, but it did it. What other open questions could you think of? A few more. You will have to learn to ask these. This is exactly what you need to do in your role play assessment. So as many as we can pop up there would be good. Okay, what goal setting are you wanting for yourself? Okay. What personal goals have you set yourself? Okay. Yep. Good. There's some good examples there. Well done. So having a few questions up your sleeve will be good. Where will you be going next for your holidays? Okay, now that question, Stephen, in the chat, if they've already talked about their holiday, that's fine. But if they haven't, that's what we would actually call a leading question because it assumes that someone is about to go on a holiday when they might not be. So, yeah, just be a bit cautious about that. All right, good answers. I will get rid of that. There we go. Okay, so our guidelines are to ask open-ended questions that cannot be answered with a yes or no answer. That's the test, really. Can the question be answered with a yes or no? We can ask questions about feelings as well as content. Okay, so an example might be, Jack, you were just talking to me about what was happening for you over the Christmas period. Tell me a bit about how that felt for you at the time. Yeah, you were just saying that, you know, a whole range of things happened and I, you know, sensed a bit of difficulty there. Can you tell me about that? You know, that sort of thing. And we can ask relevant questions that lead to clarification about the topic at hand. And that's when we might use the odd sort of closed question to clarify. Okay. The next little group of things we're going to talk about are some responding skills. So we've already talked about one of them, and that's minimal encourages. Nodding, smiling and nodding, that kind of thing. And now we're going to build on that by talking about paraphrasing and summaries. And I guess people who've been in education recently might understand what paraphrasing is in that sort of academic sense. Would that be true? Does that ring true for anyone? You've had to paraphrase at school? Yeah, at uni, whatever? Yep. Well, we're going to talk about it in verbal discussion. So this is sort of an example of why we do these things. So the woman says, I think you need a hearing test. And he says, why the heck do I need a hairy chest? Right? So they're not communicating well. So we want to avoid those sorts of communication blunders, and paraphrasing is a core skill to be able to do that. So paraphrasing means expressing someone else's ideas or thoughts in your own words. And that's what you had to do at school, didn't you? You had to read a thing and then write a paragraph about it in your own words. And you have to do that for your written stuff for us as well, quite frankly. But we do that in communication, in verbal communication, to convey that we have heard the message that was sent. Remember we looked at that communication model and we said it's not as simple as just going from sender to receiver and back again. There's a whole range of things that get in the way. The filters get in the way. Our experiences, our values, our attitudes, our beliefs, a whole range of things can distort that message. So we want to ensure that it's not being distorted and that we've got the person's meaning. And so we verify information, and we're also demonstrating engagement in the conversation. We're proving to the person speaking that we have heard them and we are actively listening. And at the end of a paraphrase, it can help, and this is where the confirmation thing comes in, that we check out at the end of the paraphrase to make sure that we got that right. Who would like to paraphrase what I just said? Oasis.
Paraphrasing helps clarify whether we understand what someone has said to us, and then by repeating that paraphrase to someone else, it verifies whether we have been listening and whether we have understood them. And it gives you room to improve if there is something misunderstood, to kind of say, okay, I clearly didn't understand that. Sorry, what did you mean by this?
Very good. Excellent. So in Oasis' own words, she's encapsulated what I've said. And I liked that bit at the end, that, you know, it allows an opportunity to clear up any misunderstandings before you move on to something else. So it really helps the person who has communicated to know, yeah, this person gets what I'm saying. They're on track with me. Yeah. So how do you do it? You can start with some beginnings of paraphrasing, like what I'm hearing you say is, or it sounds like you're saying, yeah. So what I take away from that is da 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 da. But you don't parrot the person's exact words back to them, because that's weird. Yeah, that's off-putting. You're not wanting to do that. You're just wanting to show them that you pick up the main essence of what they've said. And generally speaking, in fact always, a paraphrase is shorter than what the original dialogue was. Yeah, you're compacting it, picking out the main themes, the main ideas. Please don't go, I know what you mean. I understand. I understand. Yeah. Like, can you not do that? Because you don't. They're just empty words. When you paraphrase, you're actually demonstrating understanding. You don't have to say it. Do you like my accent? Thank you, Oasis. So I'm thinking about going into adult theatre. Yeah, anything. So, yeah, I don't want to hear, oh, I know what you mean. Oh, I completely get you. I understand. Because, no, you don't. That does not reassure anybody that you do. In fact, it can have the opposite impact. Does that happen sometimes to you with your friends? I can see Melody nodding away. She is thinking about all of her friends that go, oh, I know, I totally get you. I understand, Melody. And she's thinking, no, you flipping don't, right? Because you don't walk in my shoes and you don't know all these other things, right, that are impacting on me. That's what she's thinking in that moment, because that's what we all think. So that's a no-no, all right?
I've even come across some professionals that do it as well. Like, it's what you said. Like, you just don't, like, they don't understand, and they say like, poor you. I know what you're saying, and then it just makes you feel like you don't want to keep talking because they're just making you feel like crappy. But yeah.
So tell me a bit about that, feeling crappy. Like, I'm genuinely interested, Melody. So you say professionals do it and then it leaves you feeling crappy. I'm curious to know what that's about, that crappy feeling.
Like, I know we're not allowed to do personal stories, but like when like you are talking to a professional and they say, I know what you mean, like, oh, you poor thing, it makes you feel like they're just making you feel like your situation is 10 times worse, and like they're validating your feelings of like what you're feeling, but you actually want someone to be like, you know, like lift you up, not push you down to make you feel like less, like, and like delve you into those feelings. You want to push the person away from the feelings, not into the feelings.
Well, yes and no, but I get your point. Like, I think if as say it's a therapy sort of situation, you might be wanting people to tap into what that was about to try and explore it so they understand it better, can make sense of it, you know.
Yeah.
But there's different ways of doing that. So you poor thing, that is actually an expression of sympathy, would you say?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Yeah.
It's often an unhelpful thing.
Yeah.
You know? We use it a lot, you know, when there's a death, when someone's passed away. Oh, I'm so sorry for you. It's a sympathy saying. It's usually reasonably unhelpful for people. What might be more helpful in the circumstances that you were just talking about might be something like, it sounds like that was a really difficult time for you.
Yeah.
You know, whatever you were saying, and just leave it at that. You know, it sounds like it's a really difficult time for you. Do you want to tell me a bit more about that? Or is that right? Like, it was distressing or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Rather than, you poor thing, I understand.
Yeah.
So by saying it sounds like it was a really difficult time for you, that's reflecting feeling. Yeah. Picking up on those things. Oasis says, patronising. It can come across as quite patronising. That's quite right, yeah. And Mogain says a lot of people do that to people with a disability. Yeah, Mogain, I think that's so true. There's a lot of patronising. There's a lot of minimising, I guess, of people's experience. Yeah, and I think that's probably about the other person's level of comfort or not, say, with the person with the disability. Yeah. Good, okay. So some steps in paraphrasing. So what we do is we listen to the content part of the client's message. We select an appropriate beginning to our sentence or our response. So it might start with, it sounds like, or what I hear you saying is, and then we add to that beginning of the sentence by translating the content of the client's main message into your own words. You can use some of their keywords, but you don't parrot back exactly what they've said. And at the end of the sentence, you just check with the person that you accurately understood what they were saying. Have I got that right? So that's a step-by-step sort of way of constructing, I guess, a paraphrase. Are there any questions about that? No? You don't do it once in a conversation. You do it continually throughout. It shows the person you're tracking with them. And the other real benefit is it does sort of help you remember, like it keeps you really focused on the person and helps you remember the key things they're saying because you're saying them out loud. But it does give the other person, as Oasis said, like an opportunity to say, oh, that's not quite what I meant. Yeah. And often that's part of their processing as well. Oh, no, it's not really that. It's kind of this. So when you hear yourself come back at you, sort of reflected back, you can gain a new clarity around your own perspective. Is that ringing true for people? Yeah, okay, cool. So here's an example. So the person says, I've just broken up with Jason. The way he was treating me was just too much to bear. Every time I tried to touch on the subject with him, he'd just clam up. I feel so much better now. So a short paraphrase, you feel much better after breaking up with Jason. Is that right? What I'm hearing is you feel so much better now that the relationship has ended. You know, something like that. So now it's your turn. First one, some nice little paraphrases. I'm feeling very tired. These meds mess up my sleep. I don't know if it's all worth it. Type a paraphrase of that into the chat. While you're all thinking about it, I'm going to run to the loo really quick. So lots of responses in the chat, please. Oh, okay. Okay. So Emily starts with, I hear you saying you're not sure if taking these new meds are worth it. Yep. That's good. So you're concerned the medication is affecting your sleep and you don't know whether the medication is going to pay off. Yes, although that's quite long away. So we're trying to keep them, like it's correct, try and keep them a little shorter. It sounds like the medicines are a bit too much for you. Okay. Could that be leading? I wonder. like it sounds to me like the person's not really sure. Sounds like the meds are affecting the sleep and you're questioning if it's worth taking them. Yeah, good. Sounds like you're questioning if the benefits of your medication are worth the side effects. Okay, yeah. I see. So what I'm hearing is that the meds you are on are messing up your sleeping and you're not sure if it's making a difference. Is that right? I love the way you've structured that one, Jack. That's good. Melody, what I'm hearing is you don't know if your meds are worth it. You're feeling tired. Yeah, good. I like the structure of that too. Remember checking out at the end. So she is saying that she's very, yes. So Eleanor, what we're doing is we're pretending that that person is talking to us, and so we're sort of pretending that we're going to paraphrase it back to them. Yeah. Good. There's some good examples there. Yep. Okay. So I might say, so it sounds like you're just really unsure about the medications. Is that right? Then I might say, tell me a bit more about the impact that's having on you. So yeah, you can keep it quite brief. Okay, good. Good on you, Eleanor. She's saying she's very tired. Yeah. Good. Okay, next one, number 2. I don't know what to do. On the one hand, she's really friendly, but then she'll just turn and be really cold. Number 2. Yeah, thanks, Kate. Okay, so John says, it sounds like you're unsure of what to make of her. Have I got that right? Yep, that's good. Everyone will do it in their own way. You've got to find what works for you, what's comfortable. There's a few more coming, I think. Just waiting to see them in the chat. Okay. Oasis says, are you feeling unsure about this person? Now, Oasis, that is a good question. It's probably, tell me, Oasis, just turn your mic on. Do you think that question's an open question or a closed question?
I was unsure how to paraphrase because it didn't mention friend, and I'm like, who are you talking about? But yeah, it is a closed question.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So you might do that to clarify. Yeah.
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 I guess so. Like when I paraphrase, I usually put clarification on it all the time, probably because I'm unsure of myself at times. So that's probably why I have that habit.
Yeah, yeah. So Angela says, it sounds like you're getting mixed messages. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, that's good. Emily says, it seems you're unsure about her hot and cold behaviour. Is that right? Yeah. Jack says, so you feel that the changes from friendly to cold and you feel a little unsure. Yep, good. I see. So this person is very hard to read. Have I got that right? Okay, yeah. Yeah, okay. Or it could be, Melody, you're finding that person difficult to read. Like, we don't know. So, yeah, good. Aurora says, I hear what you're saying. It seems like you're not sure of what to think of her. Is that right? Yep. So we don't have to begin it with, Aurora, I hear what you're saying, because you're actually demonstrating that by your paraphrase. So you could say, is this, how do I rephrase that? No, let's just leave it. That's okay. All right. Any others coming through? Trying to think how I might do that one. So you're really unsure of your relationship with her. Is that right? Something like that?
You do it so simple and easy.
Yeah.
Just sat there and I don't know.
Because it's trying to tap into the essence of it, you know? Yeah? Yeah. Oh, Aurora, don't. I was just trying to think of a way of turning your thing into a different structure, but it's okay. Okay, shall we have a go on the next one? So,
I did put my hand up. Sorry.
oh, sorry, Oasis, I missed it.
All good. Another thing that I just twigged up about myself. So with the point two, it says, I don't know what to do. And I guess I've just realized sometimes when I'm trying to help someone, if they say, I don't know what to do, I kind of want to guide them in sort of a
Yes.
direction of how to fix that. And maybe that's a bad habit that I have. I don't know.
So some awesome self-reflection there, Oasis. Really good reflection. Remember we had that lesson and we said, when we focus on problems, what we do is we're putting the emphasis on fixing it. We can't fix other people's problems. We can fix a fence, you know, we can fix a hole in the ground, we can fix up a lovely lunch, but we can't fix other people. It's up to them. And so, yeah, we have to really try and extract that fixing thing out of ourselves. Remember, we're the people that help provide maps and clear obstacles, provide maps. Yeah. And in order to be able to do that, our role is to assist people to explore their world, their bundle of wool all knotted up. That's how I see it, like a knotted wool and tangled twine, right? And to sort of help them pull each strand out and explore it. Yeah. Oasis?
Sorry. Yeah, because I kind of do help someone, and I don't want to ever do anything that's gonna hurt this person, and so I'm just taking this opportunity to ask more questions.
Good.
If you do that sort of thing where you kind of like, I think this, like you subconsciously do it, like you're like, I think this will be the better option. I think they should explore this, and in a way, you end up kind of pushing them in that direction because you know that they're going to stay comfortable where they are and they don't want to like shift out of it because that's where they're used to being, because that's like a habit they have. Can it lead to like resentment, or can it sometimes pay off, or is that just something you learn through the experience of taking on this type of role?
So tell me if I'm right or wrong in trying to understand your question. So is your question, if we lead people by saying, I think this or I think that in response to their issue, if we do that, are we going to be placing ourselves in the position of being blamed? Is that kind of what you were saying, or did I get that a little wrong? Oasis? Hello, are you still there?
Just muted myself, sorry.
Oh,
I
got paranoid.
So I think it's okay. I'll try and rephrase what I just asked because I'm not really sure what I'm asking either.
Okay.
Which is like, if you kind of say, I think this would be a good idea, what do you think about it? And then, because I'm worried that if I suggest something, it could lead to resentment. So I guess I kind of backtrack by saying, don't ever make this because it's something I've suggested. I'm like, this is what I'm seeing from what you're saying. Is this how you're feeling about it? I guess it's like working through a solution together. I don't know, but I guess in past times, to add on to that, with me, some people have kind of said, like, I think this would be a good idea for you. And because I always doubt myself, I kind of ended up following what they wanted to do. And then I kind of ended up resenting that decision because they didn't let me process it. So actually answering my own question, I don't think I am causing my friend to resent me because I am aware of that. And so I say, how do you feel about it? Please don't make this decision just because I'm suggesting it. I'm just suggesting it because I know perhaps this is something you haven't thought about, but how do you feel about it?
Perfect. Thank you for adding that. And actually, do you know what just happened to people? That was a perfect demonstration of someone telling me something, me attempting to paraphrase and clarify that, them having time to then rethink it and put it to me. And then you just heard what Oasis said. Oh, I think I've just answered my own question. So that process actually helped her. Yeah. So and we are on the same track now because I've heard her reprocess that again. And so that's what we're doing this for. Okay. And you're right, Oasis, and we're going to talk about later a problem-solving model. God, I hope it's in this lesson. I think it's in this lesson. A problem-solving model that might help you and give you some tools to use to avoid saying, you know what I think you should do? Because actually when we say, just like you articulated, Oasis, what I think you should do, we are coming from our own value base and our own experience, yeah? And we're actually not, and this is why it hasn't worked for you in the past, I'm imagining, Oasis, because the person hasn't allowed you to explore your issue or whatever it was for you so that you can find and process the best possible next step for you. Yeah, that process has been missing. So we're going to build these skills as we go, but that was a useful conversation. Thank you for adding that, Oasis. What about the last one? I've tried going out to the club because I love dancing, but when I get there, I feel like everyone's staring at me. This come from a guy, a consumer of a mental health service. He used to talk to me about this issue all of the time. So Emily says, I hear you saying you love to dance, but you find yourself uncomfortable in this particular club. Do I have that right? Good that you check that out, because it might be about that particular club, but it might not be. It might be just clubs generally. It might be just, venues generally. But yeah, it's good to check it out. It sounds like you're new to the club patrons. Okay, so that one, Stephen, I think we're still on the line of making a few assumptions about things and leading people a little bit. So that's going to be something that you particularly, and others, but you'll need to try and really work on. So let's see what some other people say. Does that make sense, Stephen?
You sure?
Yeah?
I get you. Yes, I hear you.
Okay, good. So Angela says, it seems like you're feeling self-conscious in a club environment. Okay, good. What have we got? Dancing sounds like one of the things you love, but you feel like everyone's staring at you. Yeah, okay, when you get to the club, is that right? Yes, good. What do you think would be the natural response a person might have after we paraphrase and clarify? What do you think the person that we're talking to might do? Oh, Eleanor, haven't I? Where's yours? Mr. Eleanor. Okay, so you say you like visiting the club because you love dancing and you love people looking at you. Okay, we probably should be careful with that last bit. And of course, you can't see the person talking, so you're missing out on all those other cues. But that last bit could be, based on the information we've got, a little bit leading. So, yeah. So we're adding our own stuff in there. It's great that you love dancing. Okay. You think a majority would respond with yes. Okay. Yeah. And then what do you think would happen, Angela? So Isis writes, it's great that you love dancing, even though going to the club makes you feel uncomfortable. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. So I'll just see what these couple of people are saying. Oh, Angela, your hands up.
I thought I'd try speaking instead of typing.
Yay!
Just try it out, see how it goes.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking if they just came back with yes, which I don't know if that's right, that a majority of people would, if they thought what you'd paraphrased was correct, then they would say a simple yes. And then you could come back with, have you thought of any ways that you could get around this?
Okay.
And then they gives them the opportunity to think about, before you tell them before you give them suggestions, it asks them where they're coming from in their headspace.
So you think they might confirm, and then it gives you an opportunity to ask another question to explore barriers. Is that right?
Yes. Is that right? I don't know. Is that right? Is that okay?
That can happen. That can happen. Often what happens, though, is what John is saying there in the chat. So it often helps people feel more connected because there's that shared understanding, and then they just tend to add more information, which is them exploring the issues. Your question's good. Like, don't let go of that, because our job is to help people explore what the barriers are. Yeah, because if people knew how to navigate barriers to their goals or to what they want, they'd just do it. Yeah, but it's because people are unsure or unclear about all of that they don't. And so that's our job, is to help them explore. And you can call it a problem if you want, because that's a simple way of looking at it, to help them explore that problem so that they can identify different strategies to address it. Yeah. Yeah. So you're right, but often that becomes one of the questioning techniques we use.
So is John kind of saying to acknowledge the person's fear? Is that right, John? Acknowledge what they're feeling before moving on to the next phase?
My answer was, what do you think would happen as a result of them hearing them properly? So if someone hears me properly, I'll feel like they understand me. So that was okay, and I can take the next step to further explore whatever the issue is. So I might talk about specifically, if I was this person, what it is, who it is that's I feel like is staring at me, or what exactly I feel. So it's another step in. It's not the solution. It's just the next step. It's
Okay.
like,
yeah, cool. Yeah, so kind of they're just coming to their own realizations about, is it maybe where it's stemming, or
no,
what
I'm
their
thinking
triggers
more.
are? No, not even that.
Yeah, more that it builds the relationship and the trust between you two, so they feel more comfortable to be more honest and to go, actually, it's not people, it's this particular person, it's the bouncer, it's the barman, it's the the women over in that corner, or whatever it is, because that's a very, like, I wasn't even sure when I read that. Like, my first response would be to ask more questions. I feel like everyone is staring at me, like, what's that about? Who's staring at you? What makes you feel uncomfortable in that situation? Is it when you're dancing? Is it when you're not dancing? That kind of stuff. Yeah, that's why I didn't respond to that, because I wasn't really sure what they meant.
Yeah, and it's, yeah, but what you're saying is exactly true, John. So it's the building of the connection and the shared understanding that gets people to just automatically usually just offer more information around that. But you're also right, John, in that you can't, like, I know who this guy is, right? And I remember the way that he told the story, yeah. And so you can paraphrase and then ask another question, like that you can do that when you're pretty sure you're correct. So you could say, you want to dance, you're feeling really uncomfortable though in there. Tell me a bit more about that. What's happening? Yeah. So this guy, he had such real social anxiety, like debilitating social anxiety, and but he really loved going to the club, and he was a bit of a disco dancer, I think, you know. He was only well, when I say reasonably young, he was probably in his late 40s or something like that, and he desperately wanted an intimate partner, but just, you know, very difficult to know how to go about it. And I suspect, I don't know, but I suspect what was happening is that, you know, I think it was Penrith RSL that he was talking about. That's where he used to, because he lived near there, that when he went in, you know, often people that go to clubs, they're always at clubs. So I sort of gather that when he walks into dance, people just turn to sort of look at him because he's a new face, you know what I mean? So, but for him, that felt like, oh my God, they're sort of targeting him, you know, in a way, and he felt so uncomfortable. But yeah, so, and we'll talk about how to explore strategies when we sort of look at that problem-solving model a little bit. That should help give you a structure a little bit to that, I'm hoping. All right, well, good job, everyone. You did great on that. So that is the thing, I have to tell you, paraphrasing is the thing that students find the hardest thing to do, because most of you don't do it. I tell you though, if you do it with your wife, with your husband, with your girlfriend, with your boyfriend, with your kids, oh my God, with your kids, you will change your relationship with them. Because we don't really listen to all those people. You're cooking dinner, you're folding the washing, and, you know, your favourite show, you know, The Bachelor is on in the background, whatever. You're not really listening. But if you truly demonstrated listening by hearing about their day, ask whoever it is in your life about their day to day when they get home, and you take the time and you truly listen, you paraphrase back what they're saying and just watch what happens. I don't mean like every sentence, right? But chunks, paraphrase it back. It sounds like when you got into class today and the teacher said that, you were really, really confused. Is that right? You know, that kind of thing. Or when, you know, Jimmy in the playground was blah, 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 whatever Jimmy in the playground did, you felt quite put out, or whatever the thing is. Do you know what I mean? Is that right? So do a bit of that in your day-to-day, everyday life, and it will change your relationships. I guarantee it. And then you can tell me about it after the break. I want to know, because I often say this to students, and I get a lot of feedback back, particularly parent-child relationships, that the kids, like, just the quality of the communication is really noticed by kids, and they really feel heard on a different level. So yeah, give it a crack. Oh, this is my joke. Thank you for smiling, Melody. Good. Okay. All right. Summaries. So summarising is very similar to paraphrasing. So thank you for laughing, Oasis. So I haven't usually put them together in the one lesson, but I've decided to do that this time. So What summarising does though is it pulls together key information, feelings, themes over a longer period of the conversation. And we usually do them at a couple of key points. In your assessment, I think you have to do it once, right? But they're usually done sort of in the middle when you're moving from one area to another. So say we're exploring, I don't know, hobbies and interests, and then we went on to explore education goals, right? We might summarise hobbies and interests and where we got to on that, and then go, okay, let's have a talk about education. You're saying that's really important to you. Where do you want to start with that? So do you know what I mean? And of course, at the end of your session, and for your assessment, that's what I would recommend, that you do a summary at the end of your conversation. And just turn your mics on to answer this question. How might summaries first help a worker? How can they help us? Oasis.
It helps give closure and give, I guess, like a sense of purpose from the session, that everything's been understood. There's a nice like tie up to the present of the consult, and that, you know, that chapter's kind of completed, and then for next time you got a new chapter to open up to.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Good. What about other thoughts? How can it help us as the worker, Angela?
I think it can reinforce the direction. It shows the client that they've been heard, and it gives the client maybe some clarity.
Yeah, that's good. So that you've both answered in ways that are true for both of those parts of the question. But yeah, that's right. So it can give that sense of direction, closure, clarity. That's good. And Melody, you were going to add?
I was just going to add on structure. So like we're not going off topic, and like we have like a structure, and like when we're speaking to them, we're getting all the points and like focusing on all the points instead of going off on like tangents.
Yeah, okay. So it can help keep that focus by giving some structure. That's good. And John, you were going to say?
Yeah, purely as a selfish thing, if you do it at the end of a session, it helps you write your notes afterwards because you've just summarised it. And so that you can go straight away and write it down.
Yeah, that is perfect. And often students don't realise that. So you're very switched on to come up with that. But it's exactly true. So it helps you finish that conversation and helps your memory, right, to be able to write some notes, because that's all your notes actually need to be, right? They're just a summary of what happened. Doesn't have to be the ins and outs of everything. So it can really help you go, yeah, okay, that's where we got to. I've got to document that because I've got to remember that for next time, because we've got to pick up on that point or move on to the next thing. So yeah, they can be really helpful that way. Oasis, is your hand up anew? Or was that from before? Ah, okay. So yeah, that's all right. So they really help the client to hear in a clear and simplified way the ground that you've covered. So look, we started talking about you know, the problems that you were having at TAFE. We explored these strategies and agreed that you were going to try to do. There's the summary. Okay. So it really helps the client to get that clarity, know that you've tracked that particular issue, or at the end that, you know, you've stayed focused and you can pull up exactly the end result of the whole conversation. And it helps us too, because when we verbalise things, when we say things out loud, they often stick in our head a bit clearer. And we can make sure too that we're right, that this is what we both took away from this particular encounter. Yeah. So it gives the person the opportunity also to correct anything you might have understood. Like you want to make sure that when you're leaving a topic or the session that we're really on the same page. That reminds both of you of what you've covered. It can help to change from one issue to another, like so it can go, okay, we're sort of tying that one up for now and now moving on to this, and gives that sense of closure to an issue or the whole conversation. Okay. I've already put this lesson on the Moodle, by the way, so it's there if you need it. So the steps in summarising, very similar, hey, to paraphrasing. So you recall the client's main message, you identify any key patterns or themes in what they've been saying, you select the appropriate beginning, so it might be something like, I just want to pull together some of the things I think you've heard saying. It sounds like, yeah. Then you do your summary, keep it simple. And at the end, check with the client that you accurately understood. So have I picked up on some of the main things? Have I covered all of the things that we agreed upon? Are all of those things that I said things that you can take away from today, that you take away from today? You know, something like that. Okay. I get worried about moving on because I see Angela writing all the time, and I go, oh, I'm moving too fast. But it is in the Moodle, Angela, too. So, all right. Oh, I haven't got it in today's lesson. Just check that. Okay. All right. Well, I wonder where I put pooch then. I'll have a bit of a look at that. So what I want us to do now is actually have a bit of a break. I need a break. So, and then I'm going to do a bit of a demonstration. So I'll need someone to be a volunteer again for me, maybe someone different. And I'm going to do all of those things and show you. I might do them, I might put a few bloopers in, and we might make this session pick the blooper. And pick the skill, yeah? Bloopers and skills, all right. But let's have a little break for a while. Let's have a nice 15-minute break, people. Let's come back at 11:45. And I will also try, because I was just looking at all that problem-solving stuff yesterday, so maybe I've put it in your next lesson. I don't know what I've done. But I will have a look and I'll decide whether I move it up to today or we just move on to practice. Okay. Okay, I'll see you at 2:45. Have a nice break. Go and get a good cuppa or something. See ya.